When I applied for the VentureX myself, I had one other card. Like the VentureX was my second card ever. Made videos in the past, talking about the Capital One VentureX or the Capital One Duo, and like the number one comment has always been, "Oh, I got rejected from the card."
The only people that don't like the VentureX are the ones who got denied for it, and I think there's a lot of truth for that.
Like people who get upset over it, and I understand the change, and I understand why people get upset, but at the end of the day, I think it's a relatively like minor thing in the grand scheme of things.
I wanted to hear, is the Capital One Duo still worth it in your opinion? Do you still love it like you did a year ago?
So
last time we did a live stream together, like I think it was like a year ago now, you were pretty much getting me sold on the Capital One Duo, and some things have changed since then, like the VentureX, the Savor, some things have changed for good, some are for better, and some for worse. I want to say you might be proud of me. Since that time, I've actually gotten my own
let's go! Did you use my referral link though? That's the real question. Okay, that's the real question. No, I'm playing.
So I will say you're proud of me, but you're gonna be upset with me in a second. This is actually Calby's authorized user, VentureX. It is mine, but he just added me as an authorized user. So I got denied for the Venture card, the original, just the Capital One Venture. So I didn't even try for the VentureX. But no, he gave me an authorized user. He's gracious enough. But just to let you know,
hey, you get all the benefits without all the annual fees. So honestly, it's more worth it in my opinion. Grace is also an authorized user on my end too. So
not bad. So I think it's like the best way to go about it. I think we're all doing it wrong. In my opinion, just get really good friends and just get authorized users under all of their cards, and I don't have to pay for anything. Isn't it great? Just
if anyone out there has the platinum card, please, I would love to be an authorized user for that.
Right. So I just wanted to mention that, but I wanted to ask you, because at that point when we did that live stream together, you really were selling me on it. You were like, "Listen, it's the most simplistic setup. 2x everything with the VentureX. Savor card gives me easy value on my daily dining, my grocery store, and something like that." And just now you've had a year to go by. You've now flown internationally, I think a couple of times since then. You've been to Japan, a few different things. I wanted to hear, is the Capital One Duo still worth it in your opinion? Do you still love it like you did a year ago?
So I know that Capital One, recently they just are getting rid of the Plaza Premium benefit, I think at end of March or something like that. So from the start, which was in 2021 when I got the card, obviously since then, the VentureX has had minor downgrades like here and there, but overall, I'd still say the VentureX is still my favorite credit card. And this goes hand in hand with, like Anthony mentioned, I traveled to Japan. And so I had to figure out what cards will I bring to Japan, an international country, so that I wouldn't get foreign transaction fees or anything attached to anything. And I ultimately brought the VentureX and the Savor as my two credit cards, but also I brought a Hilton Honor Surpass just because I was actually going to the Conrad in Osaka to be there for a couple of days. But then also I was trying to figure out like Chase credit cards to bring to, and lo and behold, Chase cards, aside from the Sapphire Preferred, which has no foreign transaction fee, the Freedom Unlimited and the Freedom Flex had 3% transaction fees. So ultimately, I couldn't bring those cards. So in terms of the VentureX and specifically the Capital One Duo, it's still my favorite setup. I think it's still like not leagues above. It still has a pretty good lead in terms of other duos or trifectas out there. I personally prefer it because I'm a pretty simple guy. I don't necessarily want to gamify all of the credits that a lot of cards, platinum card comes with. But yeah, it's a very simple setup for me. And I think a lot of people embrace it just because a lot of people have other stresses throughout their day and really don't want to worry about credit cards a lot. So if you're a simple guy or a simple person, the Capital One Duo is definitely a highly recommended duo and trifecta for anyone. So yeah.
And I think that's one of the main things. It's like a lot of people value simplicity and yeah, less credits and all those different things. A lot of people that are,
Mm,
I've been upset in 2024, with all the coupons and credits and stuff like that. So that's pretty
yeah.
cool. So I guess what I usually find with people who have the Venture X is they actually find that, like, I guess the lounge access that comes on the card is
Mm,
actually really powerful, abroad. A lot of people end up saying, like, listen, I don't need a platinum card to give me access to like a Centurion Lounge or a Delta Sky Club because, well, my Priority Pass, or I guess what's once was the Plaza Premium on the Venture X, gives me
mm,
access to all the best lounges abroad and, internationally. Did you
yeah.
find that to be true, the lounge access when you were going to Japan and other countries?
So that is something I didn't actually get to really dive into in Japan, just
Hmm.
because for whatever reason, the airport, like Narita is the biggest airport, aside from Haneda in Tokyo, right? But the two, when I looked on Priority Pass, there was only two available options. And for whatever reason, they were outside the airport, like before the actual like check-in slash security. So when I
Huh.
got there, I mean, I took a look at it, but at the same time, because I was still stressed out about getting into the airport
Yeah.
on time, I didn't actually get to fully enjoy that experience. I will say that Party Pass lounges in the United States are pretty low quality. I mean, we've
Hmm.
we've all probably been to at least one or two the club Priority Pass lounges featured at like Baltimore BWI or like Las Vegas, I think has one too. Um, but I mean, like internationally wise, they're definitely a step above what we have domestically. But at the
Hmm.
same time, there has been horror stories of the Priority Pass being rejected at a bunch of different Priority Pass lounges just
Hmm.
because a lot of people, due to credit cards giving a lot more access to lounges in general.
Hmm.
Do you pick up on that?
Yeah.
Okay, give me a second.
Whatever. That's good. That was American Express knocking on your door saying, listen,
I
stop
know.
bad mouthing us.
Yeah, American Express put me in pop-up jail.
Oh, really?
I badmouthed them too much in public. I think that's what happened.
So I did a live stream talking about like Plaza Premium going away and stuff like that. And one thing I
Mm,
found was that Plaza Premium lounges were like a lot of lounges in Asia. I didn't really realize, but I was like, oh, there's, I guess, I don't know if Japan was one of them, but I know like, mainland China, I think some Taiwan, some Hong Kong, all these different areas.
mm,
And I think I don't know if you travel. I know you got your parents back home to China
yeah,
recently, but was it Hong
yeah.
Kong actually?
This is one of the reasons why I left Capital One too. It's just it seems like for international travel at least, Capital One is more suited just because there's a lot of at least bias towards me because I'm Asian, but a lot of Asian countries and a lot of Asian specific airline companies. I have definitely been able to help
Hmm.
my parents go back to China at least twice now for each individual parent. So that's like, I don't know, 400,000 points at that point.
Wow.
Just being able to help them save a lot of money because I know China, unfortunately, I don't know if it's due to still like COVID after effects or just in general, it seems like a lot of direct flights from the US to China are one either extremely expensive, like $2,000 to $3,000, or just non-existent. And
Hmm.
so what the workaround that we've had is to fly either to Tokyo or South Korea or a bigger Chinese city like Hong Kong or Shanghai, for example, and then book another flight from there back to wherever my parents are from. So
Hmm.
we've been doing that, but they've actually thoroughly enjoyed using the Priority Pass just because I have them as an authorized user on the Venture X too. So they've definitely been able to let me know that it's been an amazing experience for them just be able to get access to a part of quote unquote the travel experience that they never really had prior
Hmm.
to me doing this whole YouTube thing and understanding how credit cards work. So they've been very, very appreciative of that. No videos, unfortunately, just because my parents are a little technologically inept. But they've said it's been an amazing experience, and they definitely prefer Asian specific lounges because it fits to their palate much more and their aesthetic a lot more than the United States lounges do. So
Hmm.
yeah.
I think
Yeah, they
that's
definitely
pretty good
did
to know.
it.
I think it's definitely
Yeah.
good to know, especially if, there's a lot of folks who only like to travel to, certain Asian countries. So if like,
Yeah.
if you're somebody like that, and I hope to be that person in the future very soon,
Mm,
that's a great thing. I think this will definitely come in handy, even if it is just an AU for me and my wife to go travel. Another thing you said earlier I thought was interesting, which I didn't really consider it initially, was that yeah, I mean, both cards, right? The Venture and the Venture X and the Savor don't have any foreign transaction fees, so you quite
mm,
literally can use that duo worldwide and still earn. It's not like the Savor isn't like the Amex Gold card, right? Where you have to like only be able to use it on
no.
U.S. supermarkets. Like it's just
Hmm.
worldwide
Like
supermarkets, worldwide
worldwide.
dining.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Hmm.
Yeah. So I've got rejected a couple of times using my American Express cards
Hmm.
in Japan. And so I had to whip out the Capital One Duo, the Saver specifically for that, or the Venture X. And luckily, even like they're not geared towards one credit card network too. Like the Saver, I believe, is a MasterCard versus the Venture X, which is a Visa Infinite. So you're also
Hmm.
bringing both of the
True.
strongest networks with you as well. So yeah, again, I got rejected a couple of times from the American Express, the Hilton Honor Surpass card, just because it was a American Express product, and I had to whip out one of the Capital One Duo cards instead. And yeah, overall, I mean, I definitely prefer the Capital One Duo when I travel, just because I don't have to really think about, oh, this card has foreign transaction fees, this one doesn't.
Yeah.
I just bring it, you know, instead of,
Hmm.
bringing the Sapphire Preferred and leaving the Freedom Flex and the Freedom Unlimited
Yeah.
behind because they have foreign transaction fees.
Hmm.
But yeah.
That's a very good point. I actually like that a lot. That's again, every time I talk to you, you somehow find some way to like sell me on this duo. I don't know what it is. It just seems every time you talk about it, I'm like, it just makes so much sense. I also want to ask because like a lot of people don't necessarily like a lot of people talk about the value of chase points, the value of Amex points in certain
Mhm.
ways, even some other programs. But I feel like I hear less so often a lot of people talking about the value of Capital One miles, and I
Mm,
know you have been able to use them to do a lot of these trips for either
mhm,
your parents or for you.
mhm,
Can you just talk a little bit about like yeah, some of the value, or at least I should say how you were able to amass a lot of miles with Capital One, and then how you're
mhm.
able to like use them that people may not realize is good, like transfer partners, what have you.
Yeah, so obviously the first couple of ways to earn Capital One miles is through like doing a welcome bonus offer for the Capital One Venture X or the Savor or the Venture. And I say Savor just because you can transfer your cash back into Capital One miles. If
Hmm.
people who don't know that. But another thing, besides doing welcome bonus offers, retention offers, and stuff like that, or just through general spending, is that people have noticed, and I don't know, I don't think really anyone has mentioned this before, but people have noticed that for whatever reason, that section of like American Express or Chase, they offer like, oh, get 5% back at Jersey Mike's, or, get
Yeah.
$20 back on like a Lululemon purchase after you spend $100 with American Express, for example.
Hmm.
For whatever reason, the Venture X specifically is offering miles back for certain transactions as well. So instead of like getting a $20 back thing from American Express, you're getting X amount of miles instead. And
Hmm.
a lot of companies, like I think I recently saw one for GoPuff, which was a Chase credit card partner
Yeah.
back in the day. And unfortunately, I can't really capitalize it, pun intended, in Maryland, just because I don't think they have any GoPuff locations or warehouses in Maryland.
Hmm.
But I think it was anywhere between 50x to 100x per dollar you spend. So if you got a 100x offer, you're getting immediately 100% back per dollar that you spend at a $1 at a 1 cent per point ratio, right? But obviously through transfer partners you can definitely get a little more value out of that. So
Huh.
I don't know, like it seems like a lot of people are doing it like that. I know I've seen things like, oh, spend like buy something like a membership for something and you get like 50,000
Hmm.
points back or something like that. So a lot of people, at least for right now, it seems like a lot of people are capitalizing on that. Um, But the main ways are just like I said, either through welcome bonus offers, general spending, retention offers, or through this new thing that Capital One is doing. I don't know how long it's going to last because 100x on a Go Puff order is completely ridiculous. Like, I don't see how that's entirely sustainable, either for Go Puff or Capital One. But it seems like the main draw is that I think Capital One is trying to get as many people to sign up for these things as possible, like with their credit cards as possible, and it's definitely working. So yeah, in order to get a lot of points, you do have to do a lot of spending, but there are tricks and ways that you can increase that total point threshold a lot higher. So I've definitely been able to earn quite a lot of points throughout this whole Capital One since I've had it for like the last, is it 3 years now the card's been up? I think it's been 3 years. It might be 4. But yeah, since its creation. So
And you said maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you said you earned like, or you've been able to redeem like 400,000
yeah.
miles so far.
So for my parents, since my grandmother is unfortunately not doing very well now, so my parents try to every single year at least like one parent will go for a month and then they'll like, have 5 midair, and then the next parent will come and take care of her for another month, including, the relatives that we have in China. But every single time, you go there, this is why I have a video coming up later where I say that the Aeroplan Air Canada is everyone's favorite Plan B transfer partner, just because a lot of their transfers are abundantly available versus other transfer partners like ANA Virgin, where you kind of have to go through like websites like seats.aero or like roam.me or like travel hacking websites in order to see if you can get a good deal. But at least it seems like for Aeroplan Air Canada and Cathay Pacific is something else that I'll mention in a little bit. But for this partner, at least, I know guaranteed it's 100,000 points to go to either Tokyo or South Korea, no matter generally what day or season it is. It seems like it's always 100,000 points. And honestly, I know that some people say, oh, you have to get at least 2 cents per point value for a lot of these things. You have to make sure that your points are more worth it. But in my opinion, as long as the cashback amount is less than the amount that I paid for, I'm completely fine, honestly. Like, I know like 1.3, 1.5, 1.7 cents per point is on the lower end, but it still works out for me because, one, I don't have to stress out about that side of the credit card game, but also I get to help my parents go do something that would otherwise cost a ton of money to do at this point. So saving them like $2,000 or $3,000 every single time they go out, really good experience for me personally as a son, and a really good experience for them because I know that they're not spending any money. And the other one, Cathay Pacific, is specifically a Hong Kong airline company. And my little brother actually went to go visit his girlfriend in Shanghai. And he's based in New York. So these flights were abundant as well. And I think I ended up spending 76,000 points for him. So in total, I guess, for my family, not me, 476,000 points roughly, plus like whatever additional airline fees, which I think for Aeroplan Air Canada is like about $150 per flight versus I think Cathay was like $200. So I saved a lot of money. I'm pretty happy that I was able to help my parents and my little brother do something without having to stress them out a lot. They just paid the airline fees and it was all good to go. So yeah.
So would you say that most of or if not all of the miles that you used were all through transferring them like to partners, or did you ever use like the portal at all with the the Capital One travel portal?
So let's see. First of all, come back to me. All right, good. Hopper is associated with Capital One's travel portal, but Hopper is a system where they generally give you like a bar between like red versus green and anything in the middle. And green is obviously, you should probably purchase this ticket or a hotel. And then red is like, wait a little bit. It might be better in a couple of days. And I don't know if it's like they have their own little like, data points in that. It's like, oh, usually every single year this time it's this price, but right now it's this price because there's a lot of demand. But let's see, how many times have I used the travel portal? So I've never actually transferred my Capital One points to the travel portal. I think 1 cent per point ratio is wasted on that. You could just get it for cash back. value or transfer it out. So I don't really generally try to transfer any points to the travel portal, but I have used the travel portal to make purchases, specifically like backtracking a little bit to my parents and talking about China, because there's no direct flights to China right now, or even if they are, they're like $3,000, $2,000.
Wow.
What I do is I kind of gamify that process where I book like most of the way, so 100,000 points round trip from my parents' local airport to Tokyo or South Korea for 100,000 points, and then I buy the portion that's direct flight from South Korea to the place where my parents live, or Tokyo to put direct flight to where my parents are in China, and I use the Capital One travel portal to do that. But again, because I get 5x through the travel portal, I'd much rather just spend a dollar amount instead than like having to, then use like 50,000 points to then like book a direct flight instead. In terms of usage, I'd say I do use it quite a bit, just because a lot of credit card issuers now force you, in order to get like points, they force you to use the travel portal to get the 5x or 10x depending on what travel you're doing. So yeah, that's the only reason I really use it.
I guess one of the other things with the VentureX too that I wanted to ask you is, I guess you're a veteran enough of the VentureX. You've had it long enough to kind of see some of its changes, and one of them ended up being, I think it was a very broad, almost like the Sapphire Reserves is like $300 travel credit where you can use it on anything, and then you'll get reimbursed that. And then I think you had it long enough to where you've been able to see that shift from anywhere to only in the portal. So how was that change? And then how do you use like your how do you use your $300 credit every year, you think?
So
nowadays?
back in the day, it would be like, you could use it for practically anything. You buy a flight on like United and it'll get reimbursed. But now, yeah, like you said, the $300 credit is generally only towards the travel portal now. I don't see that big of a change in terms of, I'm upset that I'm now forced to use it within the travel portal. It's generally, I still, book some trips through the travel portal, and I just, use the travel credit. I just think of it as, I'm prepaying for a $300 travel credit through the annual fee, and I just use it. There's no, like people who get upset over it, and I understand the change, and I understand why people get upset, but and at the end of the day, I think it's a relatively like minor thing in the grand scheme of things. I don't really see an issue. I've never really had an issue, unlike the hotel credit from Chase, where it's like, oh, I can't use it this year because I'm transferring it out. Like, no, there's never been a really big issue. And plus, like, because the Capital One VentureX is mainly towards two different travel types, hotel and flights, those are things that I use for the travel portal, and getting a $300 off coupon at the beginning of my credit card anniversary is always a big perk to have. So
nice. Yeah. Do you have any examples of like where you used it recently, like hotels or flights or something like that?
So recently I went to Japan just for a vacation with me and my girlfriend. And at the same time, just due to the fact that my grandmother, is probably not going to make it past like this year or next year, I wanted to, I wanted to, because I was in Japan, it'd be kind of a waste and like kind of stressful in my mind. I'm so close to China. I have to go back and be able to see her at least one more time for my own selfish sakes, because, I can't really do much in terms of helping her get back to health. So that direct flight was a lot more costly than I thought. I think it was like $400 from Haneda, from Narita, Tokyo to the place where I live in China. And so like usually I'd be a little more stressed out just because, I just spent like a gajillion dollars in Japan buying random things like these freaking Pokemon cards, like shout out
got
to
a
Pokemon.
Charizard? Oh,
Like,
nice.
okay. I wanted to bring this up because I instantly, so this will date me because every single Pokemon game, there's like a generation that played it. I played the Sapphire, Ruby, Emerald, so that's the Kyogre, Groudon, Rayquaza phase. And so at the same time as when I was in Japan, Terrestrial Festival, which is the thing that this came out of, was happening at the same time. And I was coincidentally at the same store when it just got released I said, screw it. Why not? You know, for old time nostalgia's sake, I'll buy one single pack. I opened it up, and you know how much this thing costs right now?
$150.
Okay, then it's not that much, but it's
Oh, okay.
ungraded wise. I think it's like around $50, but you can get it
Okay.
graded, which like increases the value. Like
Yeah.
if it's like a pristine card, but it can get up to like $200, $300, $400
Wow.
depending on what card you have. So
Huh.
sidetracking, you know, I just started, you know, Japan. I spent a bunch of money in Japan, and I have a gajillion of these now. And you know, something is actually coming out in the next couple of weeks. So I don't know when this video will come out, but I will be standing in line at Walmart at 5 o'clock in the morning trying to get something. But anyways, back to the story. Because I spent a lot of money in Japan, you know, $400 to me was a little bit like out of my budget. But because I had the $300 travel coupon that I prepaid for when my card anniversary hit, I said, you know, $100 for a flight, that's way more reasonable than the $400. So I instantly used it up for the next year, which is completely fine by me because one, I got to see my grandma for potentially the last time, hopefully not, God forbid, but at the same time, like it's something that I was able to do, and the amount of, I guess, emotional, how would I say it? Like the amount of emotion and everything, the positiveness from it was definitely a lot better than if I just, you know, went back to the States instead. So thank you, Capital One, for allowing me to go back. But yeah, it was yeah, in terms of that, that was the last time, I guess, one instance where I did use 100% of the credit. And it was fairly easy to use. Yeah.
Gotcha. And lastly, I hear a lot of people say the only people that don't like the VentureX are the ones who got denied for it, and I think there's a lot of truth for that. When I see
Yeah.
people write that, a
Yeah.
lot of people find it very hard, myself included. Like I said in the beginning, I got denied for this typical venture card, not the VentureX, just the venture. Go figure. And then but do you have any advice to anyone who wants to complete their Capital One Duo? Maybe they have no cards and maybe they have VentureX, not a Savor, and vice versa. Any advice on people who are, you know, wanting to get those cards and they just can't, or maybe if they're just starting out, you know?
So there's, for whatever reason, it seems like a lot of people that already own a bunch of cards seem to be rejected the most. Anthony, you included. I know you have like 7,000 Chasing Business Unlimiteds right now. I don't even know how many at this point that you have. But you know, I've made videos in the past, you know, talking about the Capital One VentureX or the Capital One Duo, and like the number one comment has always been, "Oh, I got rejected from the card." There's no clear-cut strategy. It's not like a Chase 524 rule where it's like, you know, if you have 5 cards, you're gonna get rejected. It's plain and simple. There's workarounds, you know, business cards, whatever. But for Capital One, it seems like the general rule of thumb is not to have that many inquiries. Like if you have less than 5, like it just go by. It seems like going by Chase's rule of 524 might be a strategy, and that just like don't have that many hard pull inquiries associated with the account. When I applied for the VentureX myself, I had one other card. Like the VentureX was my second card ever, which is what kind of initiated my channel into credit card stuff in the first place because I was analyzing it and the VentureX was about to come out and everyone was saying it was a game changer card. So I said, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna get it. You know, and the good thing about the VentureX is like whenever it does, you know, I think it's a little bit too good to be true at the moment just because of all the benefits and stuff. And the annual fee is super low compared to other premium travel credit cards out there. Once it gets to that step where, you know, it's not really that worth it anymore, at least the downgrade path is a $0 annual fee Venture One card. Unlike, you know, American Express Platinum, where your ultimate downgrade is still the green card, which is still has an annual fee attached. So in terms of that case, you know, I'm pretty solid in terms of like keeping it forever. So yeah, it's like people, it seems like Capital One likes people who, you know, can be tricked a little bit more. I know Capital One has that thing where a lot of people say like people, they prefer subprime candidates, like people who will have a, you know, balance from month to month. And I know it's a little scummy, but people who play the credit card game, just like keep note, never fall into credit card debt. That's always the number one rule in terms of anything when we do credit cards. The number one recommendation, never fall into credit card debt. And I know that it's hard nowadays because I think some news report is telling us like we're at the all-time high in credit card debt, which is a bit ridiculous. But yeah, people, it seems like if you want the Venture X, get it early in your credit card journey. Seems like a good play. I know that the annual fee might be a little scary. A lot of people will argue that it's the only free premium travel credit card out there, and the benefits are relatively easy to use. So you can definitely claw back at least $400 worth of value from it, even though the $395, $5 more. Capital One's paying you $5 or whatever. But or for those who are already in the credit card game, unfortunately, if you want it, probably to wait a long time, which sucks for people like Anthony, but just wait a while. Let's get those inquiries down, less than 524 even, if possible. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like Capital One has a clear-cut rule against it. It's just, less inquiries, the better chances you're probably going to get the card.
I think that's great. Or like I said, get some friends in high places, get it authorized.
Get some friends in high places. Unfortunately, my authorized user slots are full.
They're full.
They're full.
It's not ticking.
Yeah.
So I have my last question. It's my one gotcha question. Because I got you here. I wanted to confront you on it. I thought it was something that I should wait till the end.
Okay.
Now you're here in front of me. I wanted to hit you with it. But I wanted to ask, in your opinion, what is the best Capital One commercial they ever put out?
Dude, with what's his face? What's that guy's name? He played he had the purple lightsaber in Star Wars. What was his name in the Marvel series? He was also in Pulp Fiction. He says
Samuel L. Jackson.
Yes. Samuel L. Jackson, and is like, what's in your wallet, or like any of his commercials are just hilarious to me. I don't like the new guy where like they try to make the banking experience feel more at home, or the guys like living at home. I really don't care for it. I've definitely used the Capital One similar, like that one or the one before. Quicksilver, it's not really it's a 1.5x card. I don't really approve of it because of the Venture X. But Samuel L. Jackson, I love the guy. Like he coined the phrase, "What's in your wallet?"
It's true.
And now like everyone on YouTube is like, "What's in my wallet for Q4?" It's like, it's a whole trend. So
nobody gives him credit.
No one gives him credit. I mean, he probably got paid a lot for his approval.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for your insight on this duo. You're one of the few people I know actually have the duo. Oddly enough, at least who I talk to, and on a
that's a shame. That's a shame.
So
more people
should
have it.
Yeah, so I think you can forgive me the time and the insight. I definitely go subscribe to Eric if you have not already. He goes in depth on a lot of different things like travel in Japan, so all of his other different credit cards, ranking cards, a lot of different things. So definitely go subscribe to him. He has some very interesting takes, interesting use in the cards. And once again, thank you for being here, Eric, and thank everyone else for being here all the way to the end. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, man.